So this was in Colorado. I was like, oh, the Great Dunes are here, so I'm gonna head down there at night. Everything kind of happened when I arrived. It was pretty late, but the welcoming center was empty, and nobody was there. It was just vacant. It's just me. Right behind me, I hear like squeaking almost, and also like shuffling. I turn around, and it's just this figure. And it's like slowly moving toward me, and I can still hear the shuffling and like the squeaking. What frightened me was that human instinct is interesting, where you can just kind of instantly know what something is. This was where I couldn't. I couldn't figure out what I was looking at.
Aiden, thanks for joining me on Bigfoot Crossroads, man. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. So, you're from Georgia now, but you're originally from California?
Yeah, so I moved like 3 years ago, almost 4 at this point, to follow my job in the film industry and doing more creative stuff like photography and all that fun stuff. And Georgia was the place to do it pretty much, and my family had moved a year prior, and so I ended up following them.
And photography is pretty much what led you to your experience that you contacted me about.
Yeah, it did. It was wild because the whole trip. So basically, when I was moving from California to Georgia, I decided that I was just going to drive the whole way because I didn't really want to pay for shipping or do anything like that with all my stuff. I didn't have like too much, and I had a truck at the time, and I just packed everything in, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to drive the whole way. Going to stop at some interesting location. I didn't get to all of them. I got to some, and take photos and see what I could pretty much capture. And that's on one of the ventures. That's what led me to an interesting encounter, I guess you could say. With, and I honestly, like to this day, even though I sent you like the email and you read it, I have no idea what it is.
So where were you exactly when this happened?
So this was in Colorado, I believe, in the Great Dunes, like right beneath it, like the edge part of Colorado. I believe that's where it is. And the night before, I was like, I hadn't been sleeping in general, but then I had stopped that day in Colorado with one of my friends and slept at his place for a bit, and then decided to like continue my journey to Georgia. But I was like, oh, the Great Dunes are here, so I'm gonna head down there at night, and since it'll be clear, I'm gonna take a picture of like the sand dunes and the stars, and it'll be like really, really beautiful. I was like, it could be a great shot, and I still got the photo. But everything kind of happened when I arrived at the welcoming center outside the Great Dunes. That's where everything happened.
What time of night was it whenever you got there?
I believe it was 2 a.m. So it was pretty late, and at this point, most of the people who were camping in the place like would have already been asleep.
Right.
There were some people like later on that I found, but the welcoming center was empty, and nobody was there. It was just vacant, and there's like some street lights, whatever lamps are up at the welcoming parking lot is where I was, and there's like a very, that orange, what's it called? That type of light. But that's what time it happened at, like around 2 a.m. is what I'm guessing, because I remember I drove the rest of the night into the morning to get to Oklahoma after the encounter. So it was like 2 a.m.
The parking lot's completely empty other than you.
Correct. Yeah, it's just me. It was weird because pulling up, I didn't expect anything. And I also had never been there before. So in my mind, I was like, oh, the welcoming center is here. I'm guessing the Great Dunes are right behind it.
Right.
They're not. I found out later. But I drive up and I circle the parking lot and I'm like, oh, maybe there's a ranger I could talk to, some human. And there wasn't. And I was like, all right, I was going to park here. I'm going to get my camera out. And because of where I'm at, those are the lights are up and the stars are out, but it's sand. And that doesn't really reflect starlight too much because there's no moon this night. And it's pitch black right behind the welcoming center. There's no, like, you can't see anything at all. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe I can set my shutter speed, leave the shutter open for a few seconds, like 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and see what I can get. And so I park on the front left side of the welcoming center, furthest part where there's like this brown, like this wooden log fence, and then you can hop over the fence and there's bushes and stuff. So I park on the far left side, and I leave the car. I turn the car off. I leave the lights on, and I open my door. I get out to the left hand side, and I have my tripod and my camera with me. If anybody's curious, I have the Sony A7 III at the time, and I get out, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go take a picture. This will be fun. And I set my tripod up, I get everything situated, I set my shutter speed. I'm like, all right, cool, let's take the picture, see what I can find. And then all of a sudden, right behind me, I hear like squeaking almost, and also like shuffling of shoes. It could have been on gravel. And I wasn't scared yet or anything. I was like, oh, the ranger's here, cool, because of course it's a national park, and I expect there to be like a ranger or somebody just like,
Right. You're at the welcoming center.
yeah, like, someone should be here. And oh, all right, cool, let me say hi to this guy. I turn around and I'd say around like 50 feet past my truck, and it's an F-150, so it's tall, it's not lifted or anything, it's just like normal stock. It's right behind my truck on the opposite side. So since I'm parked parallel in the parking lot, it's on the passenger side, like right past the passenger side, back part of it. And it's just this figure. And it's like slowly moving toward me, and I can still hear the shuffling and like the squeaking. But what frightened me was that human instinct is interesting, where you can just kind of instantly know what something is.
Right.
This was where I couldn't. I couldn't figure out what I was looking at, and it looked to me as if a gray, dark, like very dark gray tracksuit, like someone would wear running, almost like the Adidas ones where it has like the stripes on it.
Right.
Except it was only one stripe, and the stripe was like a silver lining almost around the body, and I couldn't see the legs. It was like right past the truck, so I didn't really see if it had feet or whatever it was. But the silver lining kind of just showed like the outline of the body, and it was wearing a hood. It was like just a silver hood and no face. And I was like, what am I? What is I like? I was in shock pretty much, because I don't know what that is. It doesn't look like anything familiar. And in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe it's a person. But then it kept moving towards me, and it was really tall. It was taller than like the top of my truck. And so I don't know what to do. And I'm just like all of a sudden just panicking. And like this feeling inside me was like, I'm going to throw up. I feel sick. I don't know what this is. And I'm like scared. And I've never felt that way before. But this was new. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And so what I ended up doing was I grabbed my camera and my tripod, and I just moved, normal speed. In my mind, I was acting as if I didn't see this person or whatever this thing was. I was just gonna I'm getting to my truck, If it is a ranger, I really hope it is. I hope it's something that I know. It'll come up to like the side of my truck window and maybe talk to me or something. But I can see what it is first, before it gets to that point. And so I grab my tripod and my camera and I walk to the left side so that as I move towards my truck, I just don't see it anymore because I don't really want to look at it because my eyes were glued and I couldn't really move from looking at it unless my body was moving because I was like, I need to know where it is. I need to know what's going on here. I was like, yo, I don't know. And so I grab my stuff and I just get in my truck and the keys are in the ignition already because I left it on. I left the lights on, so I just left the key in, and no one's there, and the door is already open. So I just get in. I just slam the door and I turn the truck on immediately. Like I throw my camera in the passenger side seat, and I don't even look out that side because I'm like I don't want it. I don't want to look at the passenger side if it's just staring at me. And so I turn the truck on, and in my mind, at this point, it should have been right behind the truck. So if I looked in the rear view mirror, it should be there. And so I didn't. I was like, I'm just gonna look at my steering wheel and maybe if it's a person, it'll come next to the window and it'll knock on it first before I have to, it'll give me like, okay, now I know what it is, right? And so I don't look and I wait. I honestly don't know how long I waited. It was probably only like a few seconds. It felt like a longer, but when you're in situations that, your adrenaline's going, you don't really, you kind of lose track of time.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm trying to just rack my brain. I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? Because I don't know what it is. And I don't really want to find out what it is if I don't know what it is. And I eventually, I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna look at the rearview mirror. If it's there, then I can see it. And if it's not, I'm gonna look outside uh, my window on my left hand side, driver's side, or and the mirror first, and then look to see if it's there. And I look at the rearview mirror, and nothing's there. I'm like, all right. And then I'm like half expecting it to like jump scare me and just like push, go like slam its face against the window. I'm like, it's gonna jump. It's like something's gonna happen here. And I was like, my heart is like, dun, 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 dun. And I could like hear it, and like everything inside me was just like screaming. Except I'm not saying anything, and I'm just like silent. I'm like, what am I doing? So I'm expecting that to happen. I look over, and nothing's there. I look outside the window after I looked outside the side mirror, and nothing's there. And I'm like, okay, all right, where could this thing be? So I look outside the passenger side, nothing's there either. And I was like, well, if it's behind me, I'm just gonna hit it. Too bad. And so I just put the truck in reverse, and I just like hit the gas in reverse and turn. Uh, I turn the wheel to the right side, so I turn. My back comes out right, and I don't hit anything. I'm like, all right, I don't know what that is then. And I put the car in drive and I turn my high beams on and I just like do a circle around the parking lot. And no one's there. And nothing was ever there, as far as I know. Um, but that's where it ends. I make a circle. I see nothing. Like there was no car. There was no lights on inside the building. There was no like I don't know golf cart I guess or like a ranger car. There's nothing. It was literally just the same as I had arrived, except for that whatever that thing was, and me. It was just me. And so I do the circle around the parking lot, and they ended up. Um, I didn't want to drive back the way I came yet through the entrance because the entrance is kind of long. It's a long, dark road of just desert and trees and bushes. So just I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go further into the park instead and go to where it says campsite, and hopefully I can find like some people because I kind of need people at this moment. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, some human contact.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't know what's going on, and I didn't know what to even think about it. And so I've like, I need something that I know is real, so I know I'm not tripping out. And so I turn left instead of going right, and I go in further into the park, and that's when the whole situation ends. But thinking back and reviewing it in my mind, it's just the same thing over and over. It's the way I felt. It's seeing nothing, inside the face area, and seeing this silver jumpsuit looking thing right behind my truck. And I'm not one like I'm personally I don't always believe in the paranormal. I know it's there. I know it exists. If it does, right? But I'm not like looking for an excuse to have a story about something.
Right, right.
Never, yeah, I can never have that. I'm like, if it happens, great, cool. If something, if I see Bigfoot in the forest, if I see something, if whatever happens, I'm like open, but I'm not looking. And that's what like frightened me, I think, mostly was that I wasn't like ready for this situation to happen. I wasn't like prepared. I wasn't thinking about it. It just happened.
You weren't looking, but it found you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I have no explanation still to like what I could have been seeing or saw or encountered. I can go further into the night of like what happened, but I mean, nothing else happened. I found the Great Dunes, took the picture. There was some people around camping. My eye kept running, swerving back to the welcoming center where I had just been, like some ways away across the dunes, because the lights are on, like the lamps. And I would just always occasionally look back and see if anybody was there. Nobody was ever there, but took the picture, stayed there for like an hour, and ended up driving through the night to Oklahoma. Because I was like, I'm not stopping when it's dark. No, thank you. I'm not doing that. So,
Okay, question time. You're parked in this parking lot area at the Welcome Center.
yep.
How large of a parking lot is it? Is it a big parking lot or small?
I'd say it has like 1, 2, 3, 4 lanes with a center median. So you got the front lane of cars, like maybe it can fit like 15 cars, I'd say.
I'm sure that people could like find pictures of it on Google if they wanted to see it.
Oh yeah, I mean I could pull it up right now and tell you exactly how many there are, but I'm off the top of my head. The front, 15, 15, 15, maybe like 10 at the back is it's almost like an oval looking shape. It's not. It's like it's like as big as it's a little bit bigger than like the welcoming center. The welcoming center isn't that big. It's like it's one story and it's like maybe 5 rooms across, I'd say. So it's like not that big. And then like the parking lot kind of wraps like in an oval in front of it, and then has the entrance go out to the exit and then into the park pretty much.
And then are there like trees and stuff lining the outside of the parking lot or what's?
So the outside on the right side, I believe there's like some giant bushes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the desert, so there's not like too many trees. I know the middle median has like some small bushes, like little brush and like grass looking things. And then where I was, there was grass, like the brown grass, kind of like the tall one, the tall grass, and then the log fence that's like 2 logs high. I'd say, it's not that big. It's kind of like it's like the fence for aesthetic, but it doesn't actually act as a fence.
Right.
Yeah.
And whenever you first saw this thing, how far away from your truck would you guess it was?
From my truck, I thought it was around 50 feet. I'm guessing it was just past my truck, like maybe 3 car lengths.
And how far were you on the opposite side of the truck?
I was like probably 1 car length away, 1 to 2 car lengths away.
Pretty close.
Pretty close, to the point where I was like, I knew I was going to beat it to my truck if I just started moving right away. So that's what I did. So I wasn't far.
So the lights are on and everything. So I know you say it didn't have a face, but like you got a pretty good look at this thing in the lights, I assume.
Yeah, kind of, right? So it looked like it was hitting a light. You know how like biker vests have a reflective silver
Right. Yeah.
on them?
Yeah.
And when it's not being reflective, it kind of looks gray but kind of sparkly.
Yeah.
That's what the lining looks like. It wasn't glowing, but it looked reflective. So the lights weren't even like there. I'm guessing like there was no light hitting it.
Yeah.
on the right side of it, if I could see it obviously. So I'm assuming there was some light hitting it from the lamps out there. But it was like it wasn't illuminated because it's still dark. You look around and everything's pitch black. And it's like not that much brighter in the parking lot because there's like two lamps up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like that, where it was like, oh, here it is, but you can't really see it too much. It just looked like a figure, human. It looks humanoid-ish, right? Because it has like arms and a body and a hood, but then no face in the middle of it. And it was like you just it looks like a void, but it looks like the surrounding area. It just looks pitch black.
What did the suit look like? I mean, I know you dark in color like a tracksuit, but typically, I mean, clothes have like zippers and labels and things like that. Did you notice anything?
No labels, no zippers. It just looked it looked, maybe it could have had like a zip up hoodie
Mm-hmm.
is what it may have looked like. Um, Judging by how like the whole body frame of it was. But I didn't see arms swinging, so I didn't see hands. I just saw the figure moving towards me, like almost as if it was like not floating, but like I could see it was moving. And it was just gray. I could see like the where its arms were next to it. You could see like it had arms. It looks like it was wearing like almost like a hoodie, just no face inside. It was just pitch black, and it was tall, and so it was like just moving towards me. And however long I looked at it, I then made a decision to just move because I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at, and I'm not just going to stand here and wait for it to catch up to me because it was moving towards me.
I mean, you mentioned, earlier about how the human mind recognizes things just instantly whenever we see them,
Mm-hmm.
and how one of the most frightening aspects was your mind not being able to understand, like, what am I looking at? I would think that, let's just say, it's a tall guy in a tracksuit and his face is kind of shadowed because he's got his hood up.
Yeah.
I would assume that your brain would register that as being exactly that.
Yeah. I would have been like, oh, it's a human walking towards
Yeah,
me.
it's a tall guy in a tracksuit.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's where my brain immediately went to describe it, right? And that's how I've described it till, what was it, like last year over the summer I went camping and they're like, do you have any stories? And I was like, well, I have one. Here it is. That's my story. To describe it, I used the tracksuit because it was gray with a silver, slightly less silver outline of it, but it was just tall and moving towards me. And it wasn't acting like a human would have acted, because if I'm in that situation and I'm the person, I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
I would have said something and not just disappeared. 2 a.m.
Especially at, 2 a.m., isolated parking lot.
Yeah, where no one's at.
Some guy pulls up in a truck and gets out with a camera and stuff. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, that's what, my first instinct would have been, if it's a person, they're probably interested in what I'm doing,
yeah.
taking a picture. But it didn't do anything. It just kept walking or moving towards the truck, towards me, as if it's going to like come around the truck and then come towards me. But I was like, I'm not going to sit around for that to happen because I don't know what I'm even looking at.
So I know you have no way of knowing this, but in your estimation, you get in your truck, you're looking around kind of wanting to see it, but not wanting to see it.
Yep.
I mean, did it have time to get out of there and go hide somewhere or get out of view from you? Is that a possibility?
So the bushes and trees are really small. It's like there's like a one giant bush, but it's like branches. It's like those branch bushes. So I would have seen it and I would have heard it too, like shuffle away if it was a person. And
it can't escape headlights, I would assume.
Yeah, it can't escape headlights. And the lights are on in the truck. It's not like it wasn't like pitch black everywhere. It was just these two lights in the parking lot and then my truck lights. And like around where I am, because I'm on the far left side, there's just bushes and then the front of the building, which kind of wraps around the part of the front part of the parking lot. And then behind, like, way past the building are uh just like some trees and bushes and just like pitch blackness into like the night.
But it would have to go past you to get to that, like into the headlights or whatever.
Yeah, it would either have to run past me, or it would have had to just run straight back where it came from on the right side of the truck. And, but like across the whole parking lot.
To hide behind a bush that it couldn't hide behind.
That you really couldn't hide behind, but it's that tall. And yeah, so I mean, I don't personally, I just don't see that being a viable option, only because like there wasn't much around.
Right.
It's kind of like it's flat-ish with like a couple of trees around the area, but it's not like a dense forest. It's not like out here in Georgia where like 2 seconds someone could go missing.
Right.
It's like a plane almost.
Whenever you first got out of the vehicle,
mm-hmm.
Any impending doom feelings or anything like that before you saw it?
No, not really. No, not at all. Actually, I was like, I'm going to go take a picture. And that was really the only thing in my mind. I mean, it's dark and you can't see anything. So you're always like, hopefully nothing shows up. Like an animal or like a bear or like a mountain lion or something. I don't know what's out there. I really don't know the animals in Colorado. I just know it's Colorado and it's wild. So there was no feeling that. The only time I actually had that feeling was I think the previous night I was in the Arches. I think, unless that was after. No, I think it was before. I went to the Arches and tried to get a picture. No, it was before, yeah, because I tried to get a picture and it was foggy. But though, nothing happened there. I did the same thing. Got out of the car, tried to take a picture. Foggy. I can't. Got back in and left. The only feeling I had there was kind of like, ooh, this is kind of creepy, because the Arches are giant rocks. So you have the night darkness and then you have the rock darkness, which is like a contrast. It's way darker than it is like the night sky. And so that was like, oh, that's kind of creepy, because you can just see these giant looming, almost like massive structures, but they're just giant rocks. And so that's kind of creepy, looking into like more darkness apart from the darkness you're already looking at. But that's it, but when I got to the Great Dunes, I had in mind already, I was like, I'm going to go take a picture of the stars and the sand dunes. I didn't have any like inclination of like an impending doom feeling or anything like that. On the way up, there's like little posters. There's like glow up. There's like a light bulb, almost like Christmas lights, but it's in the shape of a flying saucer.
Okay. There is that.
Yeah, there's that on the way up at someone's property edge line. So I was like, oh, look, an alien. But it wasn't like on my mind where I'm gonna go find an alien tonight. I had it in mind. I was like, I'm gonna go take a picture of stars. I didn't have any idea that I would have run into something.
So let me tell you a story. It's about 2:00 in the morning. Like I'm not even joking.
For real? Same time?
Yeah. A friend of mine had come over to my house. At this point in time in my life, my room was at the back of the house. The backyard's right outside the room. The room has like 3 double windows on the back wall that face the backyard. And there's a chain link fence with a very old squeaky gate right there by the house. So oftentimes my friends would just come to the back and come in through the gate and knock on my window. And you can hear the gate, like as soon as they hit the handle on the gate, you can hear it. This friend of mine had come over. We're sitting in that back room. It's getting kind of late, about 2:00. All I remember for certain, it was after 1:30. I know that. So I'm guessing that it was around 2 a.m. We go out of my house through the front door. His car is parked right there in the driveway. And at my house, my driveway and the neighbor's driveway are side by side to the point where it just forms like a double wide driveway going from the street all the way to the back of the house. His car's in my driveway, but there's like an empty driveway next to it. And then my vehicle was parked in front of his, and I was driving a Ford Explorer at the time. So we're standing behind his vehicle in the driveway, just talking before he leaves. And we hear the gate at the back of the house. Well, I'm thinking it must be one of my friends coming over, and they went around back and we just missed one another. So I start looking around. I don't see any cars. None of my friends' vehicles are out there.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of like looking at one another and looking down the driveway. And the driveway kind of widens behind the house a little bit, so you can't see the gate from the driveway at the front of the house. So we're waiting for whoever it is to come walking out from around the corner at the back of the house. At the end of the driveway on the neighbor's side, on the front of their garage, is one of those orange outdoor lights like you were talking about. So there is that light. A few seconds go by. Here comes somebody walking out from behind the house, just like we expected. My driveway is maybe 50 feet long, 60 feet long from where we are. So not real far, but it's not real close. And I don't recognize the person. I can't just instantly recognize them. And they walk to a position where they're now, my vehicle and his vehicle are now blocking the view of them. We can't see them anymore.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So we start walking back over into my front yard to change the angle where we could see them.
Yeah.
And we don't see them. They're not there. And I'm just like, what's going on? I'm pretty much in the middle of my front yard at this point. And for some reason, I don't know why, didn't think to like yell out or anything. Maybe it's because it was so late,
Mm-hmm.
We work our way back over towards the driveway. Now we're going to change our angle on the other side, to see who this is. As soon as we walk over back basically to where we had been, you can see them, but they're standing in the shadow next to my neighbor's house. Almost like they're hiding.
Yeah.
We kind of like step out into the neighbor's driveway, still at the back of his vehicle, but even with it. And now we're in the other driveway. And they start walking down the driveway towards us, directly towards us. Here's something else to say, just for a side note. He and I are both really big dudes. Not small at all. Intimidating for sure. I do not recognize this person at all. What I can tell you, from what I can see, because they're backlit by this light at my neighbor's house at this point. So the silhouette...
they're in front of the light. Wow.
The silhouette is like a person much smaller than me, but looks like an adult male. Long hair. I can tell that they have long hair. It looks like some sort of jacket and pants. Pretty uniform. I was thinking maybe it's a jean jacket and jeans or something. And they're just like walking right towards us. And he and I are standing there. And this is the weird part. Neither one of us could move. Neither one of us could talk. We couldn't move. We couldn't do anything. We were just standing there frozen. And this person made their way straight to us. And right before they got to us, they turned to their left, which was our right, and changed their angle where they walked between us and the corner of my neighbor's house and just cut straight across my neighbor's front yard. They walked through the yard to the sidewalk and then walked down the sidewalk. We're watching them this whole time. They're just casually strolling. They never say anything. They never stop. They go all the way to the end of the street. They turn left. We can still see them walking. As soon as we lost view of them, as they like went behind the house at the end of the street, we snap out of it. And we're both just like, what the hell? Here's the thing. I will swear on anything. It did not have a face. It was just empty blackness. At its closest point, it was... I'm getting goosebumps right now, man.
Same.
I used to go out and look for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
This is the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. This thing did not have a face. It was just empty darkness. It was like there was a silhouette. It was three-dimensional. I could tell it had long hair. I could tell it had clothing on, but it was all just black. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
My friend saw the exact same thing. He still won't talk about it.
Really?
Like he doesn't like to talk about it. I mean, like I haven't talked to this guy in probably 5 years. I could call him up and be like, hey man, you remember that thing in the driveway? And he'd be like, shut the F up, man. Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Whenever we snapped out of it, I'm like, what the hell was that? And he's like, it didn't have a face. Like that was the first thing he said.
Oh, he said that too.
Yeah. I immediately go inside the house, call 911, and I call the cops, man. I didn't know. I was shook. I was absolutely shook. I said, there was a guy in my backyard.
Someone.
Yeah. They send the cops. I tell them, we tell them the story. We don't tell them that it didn't have a face or anything. We just say this person, we couldn't really make any details out. They walked down to the end of the street. They turned left. The cops went, drove around. He and I got in his vehicle, drove around, never saw anybody, couldn't find anybody. I have no idea what it was, but I will swear until I die, it did not have a face. It was just darkness, just a black void where its face should have been.
It's interesting that you say you couldn't move. And that, because that's how I felt. Like the moment I saw it. I don't know if it was the same for you, if it like took you a little longer. But it was like I instantly looked, registered it wasn't a person. And then it couldn't move.
Yeah.
And it felt like I was forcing, how you get like sleep paralysis?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it felt like, and I had to force myself out of it to move towards my truck. But for you, like, what was that feeling of like you couldn't move? And did you get sick almost?
So whenever I first saw it step out from behind my house and, kind of walk to where it was hidden from view, at that point, it was like just kind of that ice cold vein feeling. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, who is that? My mind is trying to process again what I'm seeing and like, who is this? Who is at my house? Because like I heard the gate. I know we both heard the gate. So
yeah, so it's like physical.
Right. And then whenever we saw it again and it's like leaned over against the house, as soon as it stepped out of the shadow and started walking towards us is when we both just froze, just could not move. Because in any normal situation, he and I, especially him, would have been like, hey, who are you?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're that build.
Yeah, for sure. I have no explanation for our behavior, for its behavior, what it looked like, anything. And here's the other weird thing about it. Like I said, we heard the gate. We heard it come out of the backyard, but we had been in my room the entire time and we never heard the gate where it went into the backyard.
Oh, so it disappeared or had already been there.
I have no idea. I have no clue.
Well, it's funny that you even say it had like a jean jacket on because it's gray still.
Yeah. I couldn't make out like any colors or anything.
Did it have like a silver lining around it?
Not that I remember.
Okay.
It was kind of like, there was just like the outline of it because of the light that was behind it at the end of the driveway.
Yeah.
But it still, at that, Anybody else walking down my driveway, I would, like, it wasn't that dark, but this thing was dark, like a shadow, like darker than its surroundings.
It did, yeah. Because that's what like, to me, I could tell that the suit it was wearing was obviously not pitch black.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like I didn't see hands, didn't see feet, and there was no face. It was looking straight at me, and that's the thing. It was looking straight at me. So if there was texture, if someone
Yeah.
was wearing a mask, I could have seen that. Because it's 2021, I believe, at this point, and so people are still wearing masks at the time. No mask, no full face thing. It was just nothing. Almost as if you're looking into the darkness that I heard that's around me anyway. When you mentioned the where you moved the angle, right, of the truck or the car, I did the same thing because that's why I moved left to like change the angle, and that's when it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to figure this one out for years. And the reason being is, obviously, I know there's going to be people listening to this episode, and I get it. Oh, so it was just like some guy in your backyard. It was dark out or something. No, if that were it, I wouldn't be telling you about it right now.
Well, you also had like a feeling, and that's people during the camping trip asked me the same thing. They're like, "It sure wasn't just a guy." And I was like, I don't think I would be reacting the same way if it was a guy.
Right.
And I probably would have said something. I'm a personable person. I don't say nothing, and I don't get scared off of seeing somebody.
Well, me and then another guy who...
Yeah, you're with somebody too.
I mean, my friend is very confrontational. He likes to get into fights. And, in a normal scenario, this is somebody that doesn't belong on my property, that's on my property and has just gotten busted. Like,
yeah,
we're
like
going to beat the crap out of this guy. Like, who are you? Why are you in my backyard, man? What are you doing here?
Yeah, honestly.
And we were both just like frozen, couldn't move, could not move. It wasn't even a choice. And it wasn't like frozen with fear as much as it was just almost just like in a zombie state, just like
watching it,
nothing even registering, just watching it walk by, just standing there and watching this thing walk by. And then after it got out of sight where we couldn't see it anymore, and keep in mind, it's at least 6 houses to the end of the block. It's walked right by us within 5 feet. It's walked through this front yard. It's walked down the sidewalk. It's turned left. It's walked past that house. After it goes out of view, we instantly snap out of it and start freaking out. Not while it's walking away, not whenever it's 5 houses away.
Well, also, it's right next to you, too.
Yeah. And the entire time, even with it walking down the sidewalk and all of that, still can't see anything, can't make out a face, nothing. Granted, its back was turned to us and everything, but even as it's walking down the side, at the end of the street, there's no like profile to it or anything.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what to think about that one.
I mean, yours, I would like to say you saw an alien, wearing a spacesuit at the dunes in Colorado. Mine, Shadow Man, I don't know. Are they the same thing? I don't know. Do they come from the same place? No clue. All I know is you saw something without a face and I saw something without a face.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been like the same type of something.
And very similar reactions in both cases, I would say.
Yeah. Very similar, I'd say. And that's the thing is like, I was kind of hoping you'd have like some kind of explanation, but oh well. Because I was like, I've been looking for one for so long, and I still just, even just thinking about it whenever I'm out alone by myself at night, it's just like, oh, well, maybe I'll see it again. I don't know. I'm hoping I don't, obviously, but it's just like always there.
So the only thing that comes to mind, and it's not the same place exactly. I don't know exactly where it is. So I'm from Oklahoma, and out towards the Panhandle, which is the general area you were at,
Mm-hmm.
there's a place here in Oklahoma where all kinds of like crazy weird stuff happens. The Shaman's Triangle or something weird like that. It's got some crazy name. And it's just like a weird place where people see UFOs and weird things, and weird stuff happens all the time. So I'm wondering if maybe something connected to just that geographic region of the United States or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked into anything regarding the Great Dunes. I did very briefly before I emailed you. I was like, maybe this is like a normal thing. I didn't find too much. The only thing I did find was like aliens, but it's like I haven't seen anything, and I don't know. And part of me wants to go back and like figure out what it is, or maybe encounter it again.
I appreciate you coming on here and sharing it, man. I wish I had some answers for you.
It's okay. I'll keep looking.
Yeah. Do you got a place for people to check out your photographs or anything?
Yeah. I just have an Instagram. It's Aiden RDL. So AIDEN RD and L, just the letters. And I should pop up on Instagram. Yeah. And thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, of course, man.